rest of the video. Always.
Welcome back to the arcade. Tonight we're going to start part number 9 of the Star Wars cabinet repair. And this video is going to be mostly installing the T-molding. We've got all the other work done. Last video we finished up the painting, the Bondo areas that we fixed. So now we're ready for the T-molding. But before I get started on the T-molding, I got one little thing I'm going to take care of. Right here on the top edge of the cabinet, the black material on the side of the cabinet, I know I've been saying I wasn't sure if it was vinyl or some kind of paper that the artwork is silk screened on. And up here, have a piece of it coming loose. So let me get a close-up shot on that if I can. And it's just right here on the edge where it just started peeling up. All of it is still there, but evidently this corner got a little water on it and the adhesive let loose and it started peeling. So it does appear that it's some type of vinyl. So pretty sure now it's a vinyl, because the back is shiny and it just feels more like a vinyl than any type of a paper or anything, but who knows exactly what that is. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this back down. And what's the best way to fix this? Well, I've found this stuff. It's a contact cement called UHU POR. And used to could get it at Michael's Arts and Crafts, but they don't sell it anymore. So I've been buying it here lately. You can buy it on eBay. And sometimes, and they may still have it, I haven't checked in a while, it's a hobby store in China called Hobby King. And they have a couple US stores, and it's a mail order place, and you can get it through them. And it's very good stuff. We use this in the radio control model hobby, airplanes, to build foam airplanes. So unlike contact cements like this, like welders is a good contact cement, but it's made up of chemicals that will destroy foam, and it's not very good on most plastics. This stuff here you can put on foam, plastic, wood, leather, glass, you name it, it's good for it. And I actually use this in the arcade on most of the driving games that have the T-molding come loose down at the base of the seat under the bottom edge, where people take their feet and they sit in the seats and they put their the heel of their shoe up on the side of the cabinet and they push down and they wind up pulling the T-molding off. So I put this on the T-molding of those games in the arcade, and it's held up very well. So anyway, this is, like I say, a contact cement. You put it on both surfaces, so we'll put some on the cabinet and put some on the lifted edge of the decal. It's also good for decals in the arcade. The kids love to peel the decals and stuff off the games. I've used this successfully to put decals back on, as long as they don't rip them off and throw them away. But it's good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started here. What you do is, let me just open it up here, and if you had a little brush you could put it on a brush if you wanted to, but I always just go ahead and put it right on my fingertip, just squirt out a little bit, and then I'm going to smear it right in the cabinet. All the way down the length here. And I'm going to get it on both sides. The back side of the vinyl where it's going to come loose, and also on the wood. And just cover it with a thin coat. And you take your fingernail and just push it up in there to make sure you get it all the way up in there. Okay, now you got to let this stuff dry about 5 or 10 minutes. In 5 or 10 minutes, if you put it on thin, it'll completely dry. And we're going to go ahead and let this dry now, and I'll come back and I'll show you what to do next. All right, well, it's been 10 minutes, so the contact cement ought to be dry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my thumb and I'm going to just go ahead and start pushing it down against the cabinet to make sure I don't get any air pockets in it. And then I'll just take a paper towel and push it down. And any little residue you have around the outer edge, when that completely dries, which it should be right now, you can just take and roll your fingers over the edge, and it'll just roll up like a gum, kind of like. And that's how I fix any vinyl or side art that's starting to peel. Just use contact cement on it. But it's got to be the contact cement that has the same quality as this stuff does. It can't be something that's like welders that's got a solvent in it that's going to attack and destroy the material you're putting it on. So this is safe for anything. So be sure that you make sure you use something. If you can't find this product, make sure it's foam safe, and I think you'll be okay. Okay, with that done, on to the main job. Let's get started on the T-molding. Okay, well, let's get started. First thing, we're going to need a few things, but it doesn't take much to put T-molding on. First, it comes in handy to have a nice mallet, so that way you can tap it into the groove and make sure it's all the way in. Then you're going to need something to cut the T-molding with. You can either use a razor knife, razor blade. I like to use these pair of flush cutting side cutters. Same ones you use when you're doing a cap kit on a PC board to snip off the legs of the capacitors and components you're putting on. Works real good with the T-molding too. Next thing you're going to need, if you have any areas where the T-molding groove is loose, and I still have a few on here on the bottom edge. Rest of them I think I've taken care of, but there may be a few places where I'm still going to need a glue gun. So you need a glue gun, comes in handy, and you don't want to put T-molding on exclusively with a glue gun. If you ever have to take it off again, it's a mess. But if you have a couple areas where it's a problem, where it's a little loose, you can go ahead and just put a little bit in there just to hold it in there tight in certain places. And of course, the most important thing you need is oh gee, probably, I've had it for about 6 years now. I got it when I got my Star Trek Voyager cockpit. The cockpit used the same black T-molding, and the T-molding had been torn up, and even though that was a fairly newer game, I believe Voyager came out in 2001. I have to look that up, but I think it's somewhere around then. The T-molding where it goes around the seat part where the cockpit is had started coming loose and shrinking, and several places where they had pushed it into something and actually cut the T-molding in two. So I put all new T-molding on that. Okay, so what I did was I just took and measured the distance from this corner to the bottom corner and cut it in half and drew a little line on the side here, and that's where I'm going to start. So and because on Star Wars the T-molding on the side is one complete piece that starts on the bottom, works all the way around the cabinet, and comes back up the other side and meets in the same spot on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here and see how tight it fits. And I know I got some loose spots here, like I said, because I didn't put Bondo in here and I didn't squeeze it together. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in a couple of these wide places here, just along the bottom, and from here on up I should be fine. So hot glue, you have a little bit of working time with it, but you don't want to take too long. And if you got a real loose spot, you want to make sure it's down flush, and you might have to hold it in place until it cools. Once it cools, you're going to be okay. Okay, now that should be good. Now we come up here to the first corner. Now I'm going to have to move the camera, get you around on this side, so hopefully I can show you how to make the cut in the spline of the T-molding to easier go around this curve. Okay, well, we're ready to make our first curve here. Now this is a 90-degree bend, but it's not a sharp 90-degree. It has a radius around it. So what I like to do, I took a little sample piece here to show you what I usually do. This is a piece of new T-molding that I just cut a sample on, and you can see right here, try to get it in the camera where you can see, I've cut out some triangle shapes in it and left two little pieces in the middle here, triangular shaped, so that when you bend it, it comes together and you have like a continuous tang, but you don't have that material binding up trying to keep it from bending. And as you can see, it makes a nice radius 90-degree. So that's what we're going to do in this piece right here. So let's see if I can zoom in on it a little bit. And to do that, I'm just going to pull it out a little bit and kind of get right in the middle, where the middle is, and just cut the spline straight in the middle. And let's see, I'm going to cut a little piece off that side. cut one more triangular piece out. Okay, and there I have my pieces cut out. And when I fold it over, that'll give me my nice corner edge right there. So I bondoed this corner, so this corner should be all nice and tight. So I ought to be able to just put this right down in place here. And now we got a straight run across here. And that's good and tight there because I squeezed this together right here on the corner. If you watched my video, and put wood hardener in here and had to recut the T-molding slot around this whole corner. But when I start getting up past this point here, it's going to be the point where I put wood hardener in it, but I didn't squeeze it together. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to be. So let me move the camera back and then we'll go down to our next bend. Okay, continue on this straight section right here. And that's holding nice and tight. No problems here. Okay, now we're getting into this other bend right here. And this bend right here is not a very big bend. So I'm thinking, since it's what I call an outside bend, I don't believe I even really have to do any cutting on that. I believe that'll go down just fine like it is. So let's try it. Yeah, that ought to be fine right there. All right, next point is down here in this little gully. We're definitely going to have to do some cutting there, but this is different because this is an inside bend. In other words, the T-molding is going to be going this way instead of this way. So all we have to do there is just take and clip a few straight pieces into the T-molding. I'll show you. Okay, well, the first end we did was what I call an outside bend, which means the T-molding bends around the outer edge. And if you didn't cut these little triangle hunks out of here, the spline would bind up and wrinkle up and cause the T-molding to put pressure on the groove, and it would make it tight, but eventually it would cause the wood to push out. So what we're doing now is what I call an inside bend, which is the T-molding is going to be going in this direction. In this direction, as you can see, the spline is pulled apart even farther. So we don't have to take any material away. What we have to do is just take and cut the spline just some straight cuts, so that when we bend it, it has room to spread out without putting any tension on that spline. If you didn't cut that spline, then the spline would always have pressure on it, and then it would eventually want to try to pull itself up out of the groove. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, well, here's that curve I was talking about. There's two of them right here. So just going to get this down a little closer. And what we want to do is start cutting right in front of the curve and stop right behind the curve. And all we're doing is just putting some strain relief so that it will naturally curve. Okay. All right, now we're gonna have to do the same thing right here. So we'll just kind of get the middle right here, put the first one in the middle, and then we'll just put a 2 or 3 on either side. Right. Now we have a little curve right here. Little crooky-do right here. All right. So far, all this is going in nice and tight. So that's good. All right, right here, it's not real bad, but since we have a curve this way and then a curve back this way, I'm going to take a little bit of stress off of this. So I'm going to take and cut a little notch in here. Let's see. That right there ought to be plenty. And then find the middle of this bend, and then since this is an outside bend, we're just going to put a couple straight cuts in it. That should be plenty for that. Okay. Okay, that's looking good. All right. Now we have this around the top corner here. So, let me go ahead and I'll move the camera so maybe we can get a little bit better view on that. Okay, well, here at the top of the cabinet where the marquee is, we have another. It looks to be a 90-degree bend, but it's got a pretty good radius in it. Probably not quite as big a radius as on the bottom of the cabinet, but pretty close. So again, we're going to go ahead and cut our little triangle into the spline. So I'm going to get about the middle here. And okay, didn't get nothing that time. Let's see. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that'll do. Okay. So again, okay, now back up to this one right here. This one is the same kind of bend, but it's more of a 45. So again, we're going to find the middle of the spline here and just cut it straight into it. And then cut a V in it. And this time I think that one cut That's going to equal about a 45-degree angle. So anytime you want to try to keep as much spline contact in the groove all the time, but you want to cut out enough to where when you bend it, it's going to form a continuous spline. All right, now here it's a little loose. I did put some wood hardener in here, but it was hard to clamp it. I couldn't really clamp it here too good. So it is holding, but when I go around that bend, it wants to pull up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my glue gun back out if I can find it. And here is where I'm going to put a little glue. And I'm going to put quite a chunk out right here, so I'm going to put some all the way back up here. Okay. Some of this down here is pretty hard, so that's going to help hold it in place. Like I say, this is the only part right here that I was worried about. I had a bad connection on my extension cord for my light there. That's why that's blinking. So okay, I'm going to let that set up and get hard. Hot glue usually takes a good 5 or 10 minutes before it really sets up good. Before then, it'll stay kind of soft and you run the danger of pulling it loose. So let me go ahead and let that dry, and I'll fix this connection on the light here. Okay, well, now we've come down the top side of the cabinet here, and right here on the very tip top, that looks like about a 30-degree angle right here. And then it goes straight down to the top of the back corner, and that looks like maybe it's not a 90-degree, maybe a 65-degree angle. From there on down to the bottom, it's just a straight shot. No curves at all till we get down to the bottom of the cabinet. So right here, we're just gonna get the middle right here where the bend is, the middle of the bend, and we're gonna clip, and we're gonna put about a 45-degree chunk out of it, and that'll give us plenty of bending room around that right there. Now this, I didn't put any didn't squeeze this together, and I didn't put any Memwax in it. It does look like it had a little water damage on this top edge right here, and I did from here on up I did treat it a little bit, but down here in the back I didn't do anything to the back. So if it's real bad and real loose, when I get this cabinet stood back up, I might take it back loose from the bottom and look at that and see what I can do to make that groove tighter, because I don't really want to put hot glue in it if I don't have to. So there are several other things I can try, but for right here I may put a little bit of hot glue, a little bit here and a little bit here, just to make sure it holds it on this corner. And then if it don't feel like it's real tight down below, I might try a little bit there, but I think it's going to be okay. So let me just put a little bit in this area right before the curve and a little bit right after the curve. And we'll go ahead and it appears like it's holding pretty good, so it's tighter than I thought it was. So just that little bit of extra glue in there, it's just a little extra protection to make sure it doesn't come loose. Okay. Now, get it down to this bottom. Let's see how tight this is. And that's actually holding a lot tighter than I thought it would. So, maybe okay. Maybe this back edge didn't get a whole lot of water damage anymore. It didn't spread apart. Okay. So now I'm going to have to get this bend around here. So let's see. Let me see. I'll have to reposition the camera for that. Okay. This is not a 90-degree bend either, so it's not going to need too much out of it. So I'm just going to grab it right here, about where the center is of the bend. And I'm just going to cut a couple little triangles in it. I almost went too far. Didn't get the middle right. That's okay. I guess I should have just went ahead and got down on the floor for this one. Okay, well that's okay. All right, let me try a dry fit to see how tight that's going to be. Yeah, it's a little loose right here. So let me see what it is down here. All right, that feels kind of tight right there. So, but definitely I got some wood flaking out of there. That probably could have used some wood hardener. Well, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go ahead and put hot glue in it. Back corner so nobody ever see it. Alright, go ahead and let that hot glue dry. Then I'll get down there and see what kind of shape that back is in. If the back is in really bad shape and it doesn't want to hold in the groove, then I'm just going to stick it in there temporarily and go to the other side, and when I stand the cabinet up, I'm going to deal with that groove right there. Okay, well, let's see if it's going to hold in this back groove. So far, so good. Nice. Okay. Been here so long now, the spider webs are down here. Okay. All right. Well, that was good and tight all the way up the back. So I should be in good shape now, because I rebuilt and recut the bottom groove here. And all we got to do is go up and match it to where we started right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the camera up down here, and we got 2 bends left right here. Once we get these 2 bends, smooth sailing all the way up. Okay, well, here we are. We only got 2 more bends to go. Like I said, this ought to be fairly tight, so what I'm going to do here, this is, I guess, about a 45-degree angle or so. So again, I'm going to try to do a little better job eyeballing it. And I'm just going to cut one little notch in it here. That ought to bend up in that okay. This still feels a little loose right here. And that should have been tight. Feels tight there, but still feels tight down here, so I'm gonna have to run some hot glue in there. Alright, well, let me go ahead and get both of these notches notched out. That ought to be good for that one. Yeah, better put one more little notch in that one. Okay. Now if I can get my hot glue gun here. Ought to be pretty tight up here. looks pretty good. Okay, now what we got to do is cut it off so it'll meet up pretty flush with the other one. Doesn't have to be exact, because I might go ahead and leave a little crack in between and put a screw with a flat head on it and screw it in, and that way it'll hold the two ends so that if they ever come loose, it'll keep them from pulling out. So let me see if I can cut that up from down here. That's a little too close. Trim a little bit more off. Okay, that'll be good. All right. Do the same thing I did up there. I'm going to put a little hot glue right here, just to prevent it from coming loose. And that's it. We are finished with the T-molding on one side. So, let me get the camera off and I'll give you a little rundown and show you how it's looking. And then I'll go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll come back and put the wheels on the cabinet. Okay, well, let's take a quick look here. I always said new T-molding always sets off an old game. It makes it look a whole lot better. So, this side appears to be a success. Of course, this is the top, and you can see it had a little swelling here, so I didn't paint this with black paint, so you can see the line of the wood right there. But that's okay, it's on the top, nobody ever see it. But yeah, I think it makes the game look a whole lot better. A whole lot better than that old T-molding did. So I'm very happy with that. So if the other side comes out half as good, that'll be great. Okay, well, the T-molding is on the other side now. The only thing left is to put the wheels back on, the leg levelers. I already put 3 of them on. I figured there's no need in you watching me put all 4 on, so we'll go ahead and put the last one on here. And because I put these on with lag bolts, I want to make sure I start them in the same threads, because the lag bolts or biting into the wood, make the threads in the wood. And I've already made threads in the wood, so I want to make sure I get these back in the same thread pattern, because if you don't, then what can happen is you can strip them out, because it'll cut new threads in between the old threads, and you'll wind up with no threads at all. So just be careful about starting them. They should go nice and easy. If they start going in hard, that means you're cross-threaded it and got it in another thread. And if you strip the threads out in the wood, the only course is going to be to put bolts in them, put nuts and washers on the back side. So we're going to get these all started here. Okay, we'll tighten them up. And that does it. All right, well, we got the T-molding on, we got the leg levelers, and 2 of the wheels on. I'm not going to put the 2 bottom wheels on until I stand it back up, because I'm trying to stand it up. I don't want it rolling on the wheels and rolling out from under me like it did when I set it down. If you remember, I think that was in the second video maybe. Okay, well, anyway, it's looking pretty good. These corners were repaired, looks good, the new T-molding. So yeah, that's going to look real good there. So next video, we're going to go ahead and stand the cabinet back up on and put the wheels, other 2 wheels on it, and then we're going to clean the inside out. We got all kinds of wood chips and dust, sanding dust and everything else in there, so we got to clean all that out, and then we can start putting everything back in the cabinet and get this front kick panel back on, which is sitting over there. The white paint on the back of that turned out real good. So that's it for this one. I don't know how long this one's going to be, because I haven't uploaded any of it to the computer yet to edit. I've did all this in one afternoon, so this is going to be a quick little video. Still might be rather long, but whatever. This is number 9. Next video will be number 10. And I guess we'll call that reassembling the cabinet and getting the game ready to go again. So until then, like, subscribe, share. I appreciate you watching and following my little video series here. And we'll see you on the next one.
For us to the video, always.